Baby, if I told you that the version of me you knew was only the tip of an iceberg, would you still love the rest of me? Would you still choose me if you saw everything I buried underneath the surface? The fears I hide, the masks I wear, the parts of me I'm too ashamed to show anyone, even you. Because tonight, something inside me broke, not in a way that destroys, but in a way that finally forces the truth out of hiding. The truth I should have told you long ago, before you looked at me with those eyes that believed I was someone I hadn't yet become. You see, you fell in love with the version of me I presented when I wanted to be chosen, when I wanted to be perfect in your eyes. But the man I was then, he was still performing, still afraid, still hiding pieces of his heart in locked drawers he didn't dare open. And now I realize you didn't fall in love with me. You fell in love with the story I was too afraid to finish writing. A story that had shadows, regrets, guilt, and pain I never let you touch. What you didn't know was that I was still healing from a war I never admitted I fought. I told you I was fine. I smiled when I should have cried. I cracked jokes when my chest felt hollow. And every time you reached out to get closer, I stepped back just enough to make sure you never got past the version I curated, the one that looked strong. But baby, the truth is, I was scared. Scared you'd see how broken I really was and walk away like everyone else did. But I was wrong about you, because every time I pushed, you stayed. Every time I ran, your soul waited. And still, I didn't tell you the full truth. You don't know how many nights I've sat alone, holding onto your name like it was the only anchor keeping me from drowning. You don't know that sometimes I watched your stories just to hear your voice for a few seconds. You don't know that I whispered apologies into my pillow because I knew you deserved a love I hadn't yet learned how to give. And that's why I'm speaking now, not as the man you thought you knew, but as the man I've become. Stripped of the masks, the ego, the need to pretend this is me, baby, unfiltered, unedited, undone. And if you still choose to listen, if you still choose to believe in this love after everything I'm about to say, then I promise the man you'll meet from this moment forward will be real, raw, and yours, not just in words, but in soul. Baby, if I could show you the moments I never shared, the memories I never voiced, you would understand how deeply I've carried you, even in the absence of words. There are pieces of my life I never let you touch, because I was still learning how to touch them myself. I was raised to believe that love is earned by silence, that vulnerability makes you weak, that crying is a luxury meant for people who don't have battles to fight. But you made me question all of that. You made me want to be soft in a world that taught me to be steel, and it terrified me. You don't know the weight I felt every time I tried to type a message to you and ended up deleting it. Not because I didn't care, but because I cared too much to sound unsure. You don't know that every time I stayed silent, it wasn't because I was unbothered, but because I didn't trust myself to say the right thing. I didn't trust myself not to mess it up again. And instead of taking the risk to be seen fully, I chose to hide behind delay, distraction, distance. But the truth is, baby, I saw you. All of you. Even in the spaces where I pretended not to look, I saw your love. Patient, stubborn, unconditional, and I didn't know what to do with something so pure. I didn't feel worthy of it. I wasn't used to being seen as more than my mistakes. And you loved me without conditions, without forcing me to perform, without asking me to be someone I wasn't ready to become. That kind of love. It scared me more than losing you ever did. And maybe that's where I failed us. I kept trying to become perfect before showing up, not realizing that the only version of me you ever wanted was the one who dared to be honest. But I was trained to earn love by proving, and here you were, loving me without a checklist, without a scoreboard, without keeping count. You made it so easy, and that ease made me run, because I didn't understand a love that didn't punish, that didn't manipulate, that didn't demand more than I could give. So I ran, baby. I ran from the safest place I ever knew. You don't know how many nights I pressed my phone screen just to see your name light up. You don't know how many times I opened our old chats just to remember how it felt when things were soft between us. Before the doubts, before the fear, before I became a stranger to my own heart. And every time I replayed your voice in my mind, it wasn't just nostalgia. It was regret. It was me begging the universe for a second chance I never had the courage to ask you for. And now, I can't run anymore. I don't want to, because there's no version of my future that feels right if your name isn't stitched into it. I used to think I could move on, that time would make me forget. But baby, time only sharpened everything I tried to dull. Every laugh we shared echoes louder in your absence. Every memory that used to make me smile now aches. And every person I tried to replace you with only reminded me that love like yours doesn't come around twice. So, here I am, standing in the mirror of my own reflection, finally ready to face the parts of me I thought you'd never accept. And I'm not asking you to take me back. I'm not asking you to forgive me overnight. I'm just asking you to see me. The real me. The one who messed up. The one who hid. The one who loved you deeper than he knew how to express. Because the truth is, you don't know the real me. But you're about to, if you'll let me show you. You think you know me, baby. But the version you saw was the one I allowed you to meet. Polished just enough to look calm. Guarded just enough to seem strong. I didn't show you the nights I broke down alone. I didn't show you the boy inside the man. The one who still flinches at abandonment. Who still hears old voices telling him he's not enough, not lovable, not worth staying for. I let you fall in love with my strength, but I'd never let you touch my wound. And maybe that was unfair to you. Maybe it was selfish to take all your softness, your nurturing, your light, without trusting you with the shadows I didn't want to admit existed inside me. But I've learned something since you've been gone. Real love doesn't begin with perfection. It begins where the mask ends. And you, baby, were always asking to see behind the curtain. Not to hurt me, but to hold me there. And I was too afraid to believe anyone could love what they saw once the performance ended. You don't know how long I've rehearsed this moment in my head. The moment where I finally speak without filters, where I finally let the truth spill, messy and raw, like blood from a wound that's been waiting to breathe. I don't want to be the man who hides anymore. I don't want to keep loving you in silence, from a distance, through unsent messages and unsaid words. I want to bring my whole self, flawed, trembling, real, and place it in your hands and say, this is me, will you still choose me? Because, baby, the real me cries when no one is watching. The real me panics at the thought of being left behind. The real me still has nights where I can't sleep unless I imagine your hand on my chest, grounding me, reminding me I'm not as broken as I feel. And I've realized it wasn't weakness to need you. It was sacred, and I turned it into shame. I turned softness into fear. I let the trauma speak louder than the truth, and the truth is, you were never the problem. My silence was, and now I see it so clearly. I pushed you away before you could leave me. I created distance because closeness terrified me. I told myself lies like, you deserve better, not because I believed it, but because I was afraid you'd find out who I really was, and then agree. But you never did. Even when I disappeared, you waited. Even when I was cold, you loved warmer. Even when I gave you every reason to walk away, your heart whispered one more chance, and I failed to see the miracle that you were. So today I speak, not just as a man who lost the best thing he ever had, but as a man who is finally brave enough to admit it, to fight for it, to show up for it, not with excuses, not with masks, but with truth. I'm not healed yet. I'm not perfect. But I am willing to grow, willing to try, willing to let love reach the parts of me I've kept behind locked doors. Because, baby, you don't know the real me. The one who wakes up thinking of your laugh. The one who talks to you in his head when he sees a sunset. The one who believes that your name was carved into his story long before the two of you ever met. You don't know the real me, but I swear to you, I'm ready to become him. Not just for you, but because of you. There's something I've never said to anyone before, not even to myself out loud, but I'll say it to you now, because the real me doesn't want to hide anymore. The real me is tired of pretending I'm unaffected. I'm tired of keeping everything surface level when my soul has been drowning without your warmth. Baby, I've been haunted by memories I never finished creating with you, haunted by dreams that still have your name stitched into their seams, haunted by all the times I should have told you how deeply I felt instead of holding it in. Every day I wake up knowing you're out there living your life, and there's this ache, deep, hollow, sacred, that tells me I was meant to walk beside you, not behind you like a shadow. You don't know the version of me that's been unraveling since the day we last spoke, the version that walks into a room full of people and still feels lonely because none of them laugh like you. None of them hold silence like you. None of them make me feel like I can finally breathe the way you did, without saying a word. You gave me sanctuary in a world that only taught me how to build walls, and instead of opening the gates, I locked them tighter. And I regret that with every heartbeat. I don't want you to know just the version of me that flirted and smiled and tried to seem like I had it all together. I want you to know the real me. The one who sometimes can't sleep unless he replays your voice saying his name. The one who still whispers goodnight to the air, hoping somehow your soul hears it. The one who has cried over you more times than he's willing to admit, because he finally understands what he lost and what he never deserved to lose. You don't know that I've been keeping your picture saved on my phone, not the one everyone sees, but the one you sent me when you weren't trying to impress anyone, when your eyes were tired but full of love. That's the photo I look at when I want to remember what truth felt like, what home looked like, what it meant to be seen. Because, baby, you saw me, even when I tried to hide, even when I pretended to be fine, even when I ran, you stayed longer than you should have. And now it's my turn to stop running. I want you to know that the real me isn't afraid to be vulnerable anymore. The real me doesn't want power. He wants peace. He doesn't want to control. He wants to cherish. He doesn't want to be loved for being perfect. He wants to be loved even when he's healing, even when he's lost, even when he's met. And only one person has ever made that feel possible. You. I used to think love was about proving something, showing I could provide, protect, perform. But with you, I realized love is about presence. It's about being fully there, emotionally, spiritually, soulfully. And I failed at that before, but I won't fail now. Not again. Not when everything inside me is crying out for another chance. Not to be the man I was, but to become the man I should have been all along. So baby, if you're still listening, if your heart is still open even a little, please let this message reach you, not as a plea, but as a promise. Promise that the real me is ready now, ready to rise, ready to rebuild, ready to love you in the way you always deserved, with no masks, no walls, no fear, only truth. There's something I've never said to anyone before, not even to myself, out loud, but I'll say it to you now, because the real me doesn't want to hide anymore. The real me is tired of pretending I'm unaffected. I'm tired of keeping everything surface level when my soul has been drowning without your warmth. Baby, I've been haunted. Haunted by memories I never finished creating with you. Haunted by dreams that still have your name stitched into their seams. Haunted by all the times I should have told you how deeply I felt instead of holding it in. Every day I wake up knowing you're out there living your life, and there's this ache, deep, hollow, sacred, that tells me I was meant to walk beside you, not behind you like a shadow. You don't know the version of me that's been unraveling since the day we last spoke. The version that walks into a room full of people and still feels lonely, because none of them laugh like you. None of them hold silence like you. None of them make me feel like I can finally breathe the way you did without saying a word. You gave me sanctuary in a world that only taught me how to build walls. And instead of opening the gates, I locked them tighter. And I regret that with every heartbeat. I don't want you to know just the version of me that flirted and smiled and tried to seem like I had it all together. I want you to know the real me. The one who sometimes can't sleep unless he replays your voice saying his name. The one who still whispers goodnight to the air, hoping somehow your soul hears it. The one who has cried over you more times than he's willing to admit, because he finally understands what he lost and what he never deserved to lose. You don't know that I've been keeping your pictures saved on my phone. Not the one everyone sees, but the one you sent me when you weren't trying to impress anyone. When your eyes were tired, but full of love. That's the photo I look at when I want to remember what truth felt like, what home looked like, what it meant to be seen. Because, baby, you saw me, even when I tried to hide, even when I pretended to be fine, Even when I ran, you stayed longer than you should have. And now it's my turn to stop running. I want you to know that the real me isn't afraid to be vulnerable anymore. The real me doesn't want power, he wants peace. He doesn't want to control, he wants to cherish. He doesn't want to be loved for being perfect, he wants to be loved even when he's healing, even when he's lost, even when he's messy. And only one person has ever made that feel possible. You. I used to think love was about proving something, showing I could provide, protect, perform. But with you, I realized love is about presence. It's about being fully there, emotionally, spiritually, soulfully. And I've failed at that before, but I won't fail now. Not again. Not when everything inside me is crying out for another chance. Not to be the man I was, but to become the man I should have been all along. So baby, if you're still listening, if your heart is still open, even a little, please let this message reach you, not as a plea, but as a promise. Promise that the real me is ready now. Readiness to rise, ready to rebuild. Ready to love you in the way you always deserved. With no masks, no walls, no fear, only truth. There are nights, baby, where I lie awake, not because I can't sleep, but because part of me is scared to dream. Because in every dream, you're still mine, we're still us. I'm still the man who got to hold your hand without trembling, kiss your forehead without guilt, look into your eyes without feeling like a fraud. And then morning comes, and it shatters, and the real me has to walk through a world that doesn't have your laughter in it. It's quiet, in a way that feels wrong now. It's like everything is dimmer without your presence. You don't know how many messages I've written and deleted, how many times I've hovered over the send button with something I thought might finally make you understand that I've changed, that I've awakened, that I see it all now. But then I back away, not because I don't care, but because I care so much that the thought of you reading it with anything less than softness in your heart terrifies me. I've lost you once. The idea of being ignored by you, of feeling like a stranger in your world, it feels like death. And baby, I've already died 1,000 times in your absence. The real me is not proud of how I handled our love. He's not proud of the silence, the distance, the avoidance, the way I let fear speak louder than faith. I let old wounds dictate how I held new blessings. I didn't trust what felt too good because I didn't feel good enough to have it. You came with truth. I came with armor. You offered forever. I was still stuck in survival mode, unsure if forever was even real. But you were real. You are real. And now, I know the difference. You don't know that sometimes I find myself back in the places we went together, physically or in my memory. I'll hear a song and suddenly I'm back in the car, your hand resting on mine, your eyes closed, your voice humming softly. It wasn't about where we were going. It was about who I was becoming just by sitting beside you. You were my mirror. You showed me what I could be if I stopped running from my own shadow. And now I'm not just ready to stop running. I'm ready to face the shadow and become someone who deserves to stand in your light. You don't know how deeply I wish I could go back, not to change the beginning, but to rewrite the middle. To be braver sooner, to tell my fears they don't make the rules anymore. That love like this deserves to be fought for, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. And if I could, baby, if I could go back to the moment I made you question your worth, I would hold your face in my hands and say it until my voice gave out. You were never too much. I was just too afraid, and I'm not afraid anymore. The real me is still flawed, still healing, still learning, but he's honest now. He's not pretending to be perfect. He just wants to be present. He wants to show up in pain, in joy, in doubt, in awe, and say, I'm here. Not just with words, with actions, with time, with commitment, with devotion, with the kind of love that doesn't flinch when life gets heavy. You don't know how much I've longed to be the one you can lean on, the one who wipes away your tears instead of being the reason for them, the one who carries you when your soul feels tired, the one who doesn't just love your beauty, but loves the storm in you too, the fire, the edge, the magic that makes you you. Because I see you now, not as someone who needs fixing, but as someone who taught me what it means to feel alive. And if I could fall on my knees before you, if I could offer my heart in raw surrender without expecting anything in return, I would. Because the real me doesn't need your forgiveness to know your worth. He just needs you to know that you changed him. You changed me, baby. You rewrote my soul. There's something sacred about the way you made me feel seen. Not just looked at, seen, like you reached inside my soul and touched the parts of me I thought no one would ever accept. You understood my silence when even I didn't understand it. You gave language to the emotions I buried, and I pushed that away. I turned my back on the one person who actually saw the real me, and now I'm sitting in a world of people who only know the version of me I created to survive. But baby, I don't want to survive anymore. I want to live. I want to feel again. And the only time I ever truly felt was with you. You don't know how many times I've wished I could go back and tell the scared version of me to just breathe, to let love in. I wish I could grab his shoulders, look him in the eyes and say, don't mess this up. This is the one. This is home. This is the love you've prayed for in silence, cried for when no one saw. Don't let your fear become the architect of your future. But I did let fear win for a while. Now I'm rebuilding, brick by brick, thought by thought, day by day. And every brick has your name carved into it. You don't know how deeply I've missed the little things. Your morning voice, the way you say okay when you're half listening but still care. The way your emotions spill into the air like music. Even your anger, it had poetry in it. You didn't hide your heart the way I did. You wore it, you lived it, and I loved you for that. I still do, more now than ever. Sometimes I wonder what you'd say if I knocked on your door tomorrow. If I just showed up with shaking hands and tired eyes and a heart that finally knows what it wants. Would you slam the door? Would you cry? Would you whisper my name like you used to, like it was a prayer? Or would you just stand there, quiet, waiting for me to explain what took me so long? And I would. I would tell you everything. I would lay it all bare. The truth, the pain, the shame, the hope. Every mistake I made, Every night I stayed awake, thinking about the warmth I let slip through my fingers. I would tell you that I never stopped loving you. I only stopped believing that I deserved to love someone like you. But I believe now. I believe in redemption, in second chances, in quiet miracles. And baby, you are my miracle. The real me doesn't want perfection. He wants presence. The kind where I know your favorite song and you know the way my voice changes when I'm hurting. The kind where you don't have to guess if I care, because I show up every single day. No hiding, no ghosting, no disappearing when things get heavy. Just us. Raw. Real. Ready. You don't know how often I've whispered your name when no one was around. How I've asked the universe to give me one more chance. One more moment of grace. Not for me to own you, but to honor you. To sit beside you again and just be, without needing to fix or control anything. Just to love you. Freely. Fully. Finally. Sometimes I think the saddest part of all of this is that you still don't know what I was fighting behind the scenes. The battles you never saw. The storms I faced in silence because I was too proud to ask for help. Too broken to accept your love without doubting it. Too used to being abandoned to believe you were the one person who never would. I was raised in an emotional drought, baby. Love came with conditions. Trust was traded for survival. Vulnerability was weakness. So when you came in like a wildfire of warmth and softness, I didn't know how to receive you. I didn't know how to hold you. Not because I didn't want to, but because I never learned how. And you don't know that the night I left, the night you probably thought I didn't care, I sat in my car for over an hour with my hand on the steering wheel and my heart breaking into 1,000 pieces. I wanted to turn back. I wanted to run to you, but I didn't believe I had the right. I thought I'd already done too much damage, that I'd already become the villain in your story. But here I am, confessing the truth you were always worthy of. Not for sympathy, not for a reaction, but because I owe you honesty, the kind of raw, soul-bearing truth that I was too afraid to give when it mattered most. You don't know that every single person I've met since you has only reminded me of what I lost. They weren't you. They didn't carry my name like a melody. They didn't understand the way my silence spoke louder than my words. They didn't pull me out of myself like you did. With you, I wasn't pretending. I was just me, messy, flawed, unfiltered, and somehow still loved. And that's the version of me I want to return to. The one that existed in your presence. The one that wasn't scared to feel. The one that could cry without shame. Laugh without hiding. Speak without editing. You brought that out of me. And that's why no one else compares. Not even close. You don't know how many songs I skip because they remind me of you. How many restaurants I avoid because I remember your laugh echoing through them. How many times I reach for my phone, fingers hovering over your name, just to lock the screen again, because I don't know if I'm allowed to reach out, if you've healed, if you've moved on, if you still wonder about me too. But baby, if there's any part of you still holding space for me, even a corner, I'm ready to fill it with everything I couldn't give before. I'm not perfect, but I am present. I'm not a savior, but I'm here to serve, to protect, to build, to be better. You don't know that I pray for your peace, even now, especially now, that I talk to God and say, please, if I'm not her person, send someone who will love her better than I could. That's how deep it goes. That's how real this is. My love for you isn't just romantic. It's reverent. It's spiritual. It's eternal. So if you see this, if you hear this, if your heart feels even a flicker of recognition, please know, I'm not coming back with empty hands. I'm coming back with rebuilt walls, with open arms, with eyes that finally see the blessing I once took for granted. I'm coming back not to restart what we had, but to build what we were meant to have all along. You don't know how many nights I lay in bed and rehearse conversations that never happened, how many times I've rewritten the past in my mind, just to imagine what it would have felt like if I had simply told you everything. Not the edited version, not the version shaped by fear, but the truth, raw, flawed, and vulnerable. The real me that you deserved to see from the beginning. You don't know that I still wear the hoodie you left at my place. Not because I can't let go, but because somehow it still holds your scent. Like the universe left me one last piece of you to remind me of what it feels like to be home. And every time I wrap myself in it, it's like I'm holding the version of us that still believes we're not done. That maybe, just maybe, we're paused, not over. There's a part of me that wonders, do you still remember the sound of my voice? The way I used to whisper your name when no one else was around, like it was a prayer only heaven was meant to hear. Do you still think about how I looked at you when you weren't looking? Because that's when I felt the safest, watching you exist without needing to perform. You never had to try with me. You were magic in your most ordinary moment. And I never told you that enough. You don't know that I used to write letters I never sent, pages and pages filled with things I didn't have the courage to say aloud. I'd tuck them in drawers, under pillows, inside books, hoping one day I'd be strong enough to deliver them. But time kept slipping, and my silence kept growing, until it felt like too much distance had passed, like I missed the exit back to you. But baby, what if we're not lost? What if we were just being prepared? What if all the detours, all the heartbreak, all the confusion was just divine timing, unfolding in disguise? Because when I look at the person I've become now, the one who can finally face his own truth, I realize that maybe this version of me was the one you were always meant to meet, the one who's not afraid of love anymore. You don't know how deeply I regret not fighting for you, not showing up when it mattered most. I should have knocked on your door when the world turned silent. I should have stood outside in the rain if that's what it took to prove I wasn't leaving again. I should have been your constant, not your question mark. And I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. But I swear to you, if life gives me one more chance, I will never let you feel unseen again. I will never let the voices of others drown out the truth that I know in my soul. That you were the one, that you are the one, not because it's convenient, Not because it's easy, but because every version of me, even the broken ones, has always found their way back to you. You don't know that I kept your voice notes. I play them when the world feels too loud, and I need to remember what real love sounds like. Your laugh, it was medicine. Your pauses, poetry. And even in silence, you had the power to calm storms in me that I didn't know I was carrying. That's what makes you unforgettable. That's what makes you home. So this time, I won't beg. I won't chase. I won't try to manipulate destiny. I'll just be. I'll show up with truth, with heart, with reverence for the woman who once trusted me with her softness. And maybe, if the stars align again, you'll see that the man standing before you now is no longer a shadow. He's whole. He's ready, and he's yours, not in words, but in witness, in how he shows up, in how he stays. You don't know how loud my silence has become. You don't know how many times I've opened your chat and stared at the blinking cursor, wondering what sentence could ever undo the distance I'd created between us. And so I said nothing. Not because I didn't care, but because everything I felt was too big for language, too sacred for a screen. I wanted to tell you face to face. I wanted you to feel it in my eyes, not just read it through your phone. You don't know that I still talk to you, in my head, in my prayers, in those in-between moments when the world is quiet and I'm left with my own thoughts. I still ask myself what you would say if you were here. I still imagine your voice responding. And sometimes, I swear, it feels like I can hear you. Not with my ears, but with something deeper. Like your energy still lives in the spaces I frequent. Like your soul never really left mine. There's something I never told you, and maybe I should have from the beginning. I wasn't scared of you. I was scared of being seen by you. Because you didn't just love the parts of me I liked. You loved the parts I tried to hide. You saw my wounds. You saw the cracks I filled with jokes and distance. And I didn't know how to receive that kind of love. It terrified me. Because I wasn't ready to be held that way. Hadn't yet held myself that way. But now, I am starting to. And that's what makes me ache. Because I wish you could meet the version of me who doesn't run anymore, who doesn't sabotage what's good, who doesn't shrink when love knocks. I wish you could sit with this me, the one who finally realizes that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's worship. That your heart was never a place I should have feared. It was holy ground I should have honored. You don't know the wars I've fought in your absence. Not against you, but for the pieces of myself I lost when I let you go. I've had to rebuild from the rubble, face the grief I never named, learn to forgive the man I used to be. And in that healing, your memory never faded. In fact, it became more vivid, as if God preserved it not to torment me, but to remind me, love like that doesn't come twice, not with the same soul, not with the same depth. Do you remember that night? The one where we didn't even speak much, but everything felt so connected? I still think about that, about the way your hand fit perfectly into mine, not just physically but spiritually, as if we'd known each other in lifetimes before. As if no amount of silence in this life could erase the sacredness of that connection. Baby, I felt it. I still do. You don't know that I've stopped looking for someone else to fill your place, not because I've closed myself off to love, but because I now understand that real love cannot be replaced. It can only be rekindled or released with grace. And I haven't been able to release you, not because I'm weak, but because what we had wasn't ordinary. It was divine, and I don't want to move on from divine. I want to return to it. You don't know how often I dream of you, not just in sleep, but in moments of quiet longing. I imagine you walking into a room again, smiling like you always did when you were about to tease me. I imagine you rolling your eyes at my lame jokes, but laughing anyway. I imagine you leaning into my shoulder during the quiet scenes of our favorite movies. I imagine all of it, not because I'm stuck in the past, but because I believe some love stories pause. They don't end. And if I had one wish tonight, it wouldn't be to go back. It would be for you to see me now, to see how I've changed, how I've softened, how I've opened, to hear the things I was too scared to say back then, to feel the sincerity in my voice when I say, I never stopped loving you. I just didn't know how to love myself at the same time. And that's where I failed you. But baby, I promise you this, if life ever brings us back together, I won't waste it. I won't second guess it. I won't need space to think or time to figure it out, because I've already spent enough nights haunted by the echo of your name. I've already learned the lesson that no one else feels like home the way you do. You were never just a chapter. You were the center of the story I didn't know how to write, but I'm ready now. You don't know the version of me that watches your old photos and smiles with tears burning behind my eyes. The version of me who sees your happiness, your strength, your light, and feels both proud and wrecked inside. Proud because I always knew you were magic, and wrecked because I wasn't man enough back then to protect it. I wasn't healed enough to hold something so sacred without bleeding all over it. You met me when I was still learning how to breathe after all my storms. And you gave me peace, like a gift I didn't know I needed. But I didn't know how to keep it. I didn't know how to keep you. You don't know that I memorized the way you walked, the way your hands moved when you were explaining something with passion. That I can still close my eyes and hear the exact tone you used when you called me by the name only you had permission to use. It wasn't the word that mattered. It was how your voice wrapped it in safety, in love, in belonging. You made me feel like I belonged somewhere for the first time in years, and then I let that place burn because I didn't believe I deserved it. You don't know the conversations I've had with God about you, how many times I've cried out in regret, asking if I ruined the one real thing He gave me. How many times I've bargained in the dark, whispering, just give me one more chance. I'll do it right this time. Because this time I wouldn't take your kindness as a weakness. This time I wouldn't run when things got heavy. This time I'd look you in the eyes and say everything. No fear, no pride, no mask, just me and just you, the way it always should have been. You don't know how many times I rehearsed what I'd say if I ever saw you again, but none of the words ever felt big enough. Because how do you apologize for breaking something you didn't know how to hold? How do you ask for forgiveness without sounding like you're trying to rewrite the past? All I can do now is show you the man who's still holding on. not out of desperation, but devotion. A quiet, unwavering devotion that has survived every silence between us. I know you probably think I moved on, that I let you go, that I buried you with the rest of my mistakes. But you were never a mistake. You were the moment that split my life in two, the before you and the after you, and the space in between. That's where I live now, in that ache, in that longing, in that unspoken promise I made to the universe, that if I ever get another chance, I'll never make you question your worth again. You don't know how many nights I sat alone, scrolling back through our chats, rereading the way we used to speak to each other. You brought out a softness in me that no one else ever reached. And even in your frustration, even when you were pulling away, there was still so much love in your words. You never stopped caring. I did, or at least that's what I made it look like. But inside I was screaming for you to stay. You don't know that every time someone mentions your name, I feel this quiet shiver down my spine. A mix of reverence and grief, because even your name carries weight in my soul. Even your memory feels alive inside me. And no matter how many distractions the world throws my way, nothing dims the echo of you in my chest. You were more than a chapter. You were the whole book I never finished reading. You don't know that I still avoid certain songs, that I turn down the volume or skip ahead when they come on because they were our songs, and I can't listen to them without feeling like I'm being pulled back into a life I lost. A life that tasted like morning sunlight, your laughter, and the way you used to say I love you like a prayer instead of a phrase. Do you remember how that felt? Because I remember everything. You don't know how much of my growth has been fueled by the pain of losing you. Every lesson, every tear, every humbling moment, all of it traced back to the moment I realized I was no longer holding your hand. And in that absence, I found pieces of myself I didn't know existed. Strength I didn't know I had. But none of it ever replaced you. Growth didn't mean forgetting. It just meant preparing to come back stronger, wiser, worthy. You don't know that I still write you letters in my head, that every night before I sleep, I whisper a quiet hope into the stars. That you're happy, that you feel safe, that some part of you still remembers the sound of my heart when it beat next to yours. And if there's space left, that maybe you still wonder about me too. You don't know the way I've changed, the things I've let go of, the people I've distanced myself from, the old parts of me that I buried so I could become someone who doesn't just love you, but someone who can honor you, someone who can show up in the storm instead of disappearing into it, someone who knows that love isn't just words or flowers, it's consistency, it's presence, it's choosing you every single day, even when it's hard. Baby, you don't know the real me, but you're about to. Baby, if you could see inside me now, you'd know this isn't just a regret. This is a revolution of the soul that began the moment I realized what I lost. You think you knew me, but you never saw the man I became when the silence between us got too loud to ignore. You never saw the version of me who stopped laughing at parties because nothing felt right without your voice in my ears. You never saw the man who finally looked in the mirror and whispered, "I destroyed the only heaven I ever touched on earth. And now I'm standing here, stripped of all pride, all lies, all masks, just truth, just love, just this open wound that still calls your name in the dark. You don't know how many nights I've prayed, not for you to come back blindly, but for you to be protected, for life to be soft with you, even if I no longer could. That's how I know this was real, because even in my absence, even in my silence, my soul never stopped loving you. I just didn't know how to be loud about it when it mattered most. And I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry for not fighting harder when you were still reaching for me. But now, I fight differently. I fight with patience. I fight with healing. I fight by becoming the kind of man who no longer needs to beg for one more chance, but who earns it, step by sacred step. You don't know this, me, but I've been building him in your honor, quietly, devotedly, faithfully. I stopped chasing temporary things the day I realized nothing was more permanent than the echo of your love inside me. And now, I'm not here to convince you with flowers or apologies. I'm here to show you. I'm here to live every moment as proof that if you ever turn around again, if fate ever folds time back in our favor, you will find a man who's not just waiting, but ready. I know there were moments I let my fear speak louder than my heart, that I abandoned you emotionally before I ever walked away, that I tried to numb myself so I wouldn't have to feel the shame, but it never worked, because you were never something I could forget. You were my mirror, my lesson, my light, and maybe even my destiny. So here they are, not just my promises, but my vows. The real me doesn't beg, he builds, he becomes, he rises. And if there's a sliver of hope still left in you, if there's a corner of your heart that still remembers the sound of my soul, then maybe, just maybe, this story isn't over. Baby, you don't know the real me, but I promise you this, you will, and when you do, you'll see that I was never gone. I was just becoming the man who could finally say, I won't run, I won't hide, I won't waste your love ever again. I will cherish it, I will protect it, and I will choose you in this life and the next, even when no one's watching, even if it takes a lifetime, even if I have to rebuild myself from ash. This is not the end, this is the return. And if you feel it too, if something deep inside you whispered as you heard these words, then comment below, I still believe in real love, because I know you do. I know you always have. This touched your soul even for a second. Please comment your heart below. Let them know they're not alone. Type, I still believe in real love if you felt this was for you. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you never miss these soul messages. Share this with someone who needs healing, who still believes in divine love, and who's been silently waiting for a sign. Your healing matters. Your story is sacred. And love, true love, never dies. We'll see you in the next message. Until then, stay loved, stay protected, and stay believing.